Good morning to everyone on this beautiful April 23rd day, bright and sunny, and I think we're going up to 16 degrees, so we'll try to be very efficient so we can enjoy some of our day. Call the meeting to order, and we'll start with our roll call. Asphodel Norwood, Mayor Wilford is online. Good morning. And Deputy Mayor Burt.
Good morning.
Kevin Monaghan, we have Mayor Graham.
Present.
And Deputy Mayor Huntley online.
Here.
And we have Duro Dummer, we have Mayor Watson. Good morning. And Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Good morning.
And in Havelock, Belmont, Methuen, we have Mayor Martin.
Present.
And Deputy Mayor Webb.
Present.
And North Kawartha online, we have Mayor Amiot.
Good morning.
And Deputy Mayor Whalen.
Here for one more day.
And we're glad. At Tonabee South Monaghan, we have Mayor Taylor.
Here.
And myself, Deputy Mayor Clark. In Selwyn, we have the Deputy Warden and Mayor Senes. Present. And Deputy Mayor Black.
Morning.
And in Trent Lakes, we have Mayor Lambshead.
I am present.
And we are enjoying the company of Councillor Franson today. Thank you for joining us.
Present.
All right, we will now do our land acknowledgement.
With deep respect, we acknowledge the lands and interconnected waterways that bind us together, the foundation for all life. These lands serve as a keeper of history and stories and are a source of inspiration. In recognizing this, we embrace that all living things possess an important energy and purpose. We extend the utmost gratitude to the original peoples who have been caretakers of these lands and waters of this region from time immemorial, and to this day who continue this commitment. Peterborough County's dedication to reconciliation remains steadfast. In this spirit, we are committed to nurturing meaningful partnerships and connections that contribute to an environment of prosperity and well-being for all generations to come. This acknowledgement is made on the Treaty 20 land and the territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe, and within the traditional lands of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaty First Nations. Further, our gratitude is extended to the nations of Alderville, Beausoleil, Curve Lake, Georgina Island, Hiawatha, Rama, and Scugog Island.
Thank you. We'll now have a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. We have the adoption of our agenda. Could I have a motion for that, please? And Councillor Graham and Councillor Lambshead, all in favor? Thank you. Does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? If so, please. Okay, let me know. And I see none. So we have the minutes in our package of April the 9th, and I need a mover for those. Deputy Warden Senes and Councillor Burt, all in favor? Thank you. So I would like to start with an announcement. I would like to officially announce that Peterborough County has ended the state of emergency effective April the 23rd, 2025, as the region transitions from the emergency phase to the recovery phase following the March 28th to 30th ice storm. The emergency phase focused on immediate response efforts, including ensuring public safety, restoring critical infrastructure, and coordinating emergency services. The recovery phase will now focus on longer-term efforts such as cleanup and repair. Peterborough County originally declared the state of emergency on March the 31st, 2025 to support coordinated emergency response efforts and resource allocation across the region in the face of widespread storm damage and power outages. With power now restored to all permanent residents and storm cleanup well underway, I want to extend my sincere thank you to our residents, local businesses, volunteers, the governments of Ontario and Canada, and especially to the hydro crews, public works teams, and first responders whose dedication and hard work continue to be instrumental in our recovery. While this ice storm caused significant disruption, it also highlighted the strength, the resilience, and unity of our communities. And while there is still a lot of work to do, Peterborough County is defined by its compassion, and that spirit of community will carry on going forward. I encourage all residents to still continue to monitor official channels for safety updates, to exercise caution around waterways due to potential flooding, and to remain vigilant for falling trees, limbs in all the forested areas. So please stay safe, and a big thank you to everyone that come out. Delegations, I'd like to call Emmanuel Pinto to introduce our first delegation here.
Thank you, Warden Clark, and through you, good morning, County Council. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce Claire Pittock, an accomplished student researcher from Trent University, fresh from completing her final year of undergraduate studies, majoring in history with a minor in cultural studies. This project being presented today was initiated by Peterborough County through the Trent Community Research Center to offer a student the opportunity to study our local history with a focus on the history and role of the county warden. Claire chose this project for her fourth-year research course. I'd like to also acknowledge with us today Dr. Caroline Durand and Malora Lucas from the Trent Community Research Center, whose guidance and support have been invaluable to Claire throughout her research journey. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of former wardens Gary Stewart and Donald Bruce, and as well as current Councillor Joe Taylor, who participated in this project. After today's presentation, you will receive an electronic copy of Claire's report, and it will also be made accessible to the public through the Trent Library in the near future. And without further ado, I'd like to turn the podium over to Claire.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. As Emmanuel so kindly said, my name is Claire Pittock. I'm a fourth-year history student at Trent University, and I'm very excited to be here talking to you today about the oral history of Peterborough County Wardens, or 9 conversations with previous leaders of County Council. Thank you. Before we go any further, it's necessary to thank the wardens who have so generously participated in this project. So to Don, Phyllis, Gary, Doug, Tom, Ruth, Neil, Connie, Ken, Ron, Joe, Jay Murray, and Bonnie, thank you. This project would have been impossible without you. So what exactly occurred within this project? So the first part of this was from September 2024 to December 24, in which I engaged in a series of 3 literature reviews focusing on the themes of municipal government, oral history, and Peterborough County history. And the point of these reviews was to raise my knowledge level to a point where I felt competent to engage in the interview process. And this was the next step, lasting from January 2025 to March 2025, where I had conversations with 9 wardens, each conversation lasting between 1 or 2 hours, and there was a fairly even division between in-person and virtual. There was a list of 13 questions asked, which were inspired by the review stage, as well as questions asked based on participant responses. Each of these meetings were recorded and transcribed and will be available with field notes at the end of this project. And the final stage was the dissemination phase, which includes both this presentation and the final report that Emmanuel so kindly mentioned. Another part of this is the short biographies that were created for each warden based on our meetings, and these will be publicly accessible on the Warden's Wall virtual display. Both the biographies and the interview questions were shaped by these three queries, and they may look familiar to you as they were provided by you at the county. While answers to these can be found in the individual biographies, this presentation focuses more on the common themes that were found within the interviews. But what were exactly these common findings? So one of the most significant ones that I found was this idea of collaboration. And this was both huge methodologically, as oral history depends on this teamwork between myself and the narrators. But this partnership was also mirrored in the results, as through those bonds that are crucial to foster with colleagues to be an effective leader, but also the relationships necessary to have with people in the region to best serve these residents. And a key consideration of this were the trust and respect that came both through within these discussions, and were essential within the tenures of those interviewed. And this anthropological nature of government has never been so clear in my entire life or in the literature reviews themselves. And I believe that this is part of the role of oral history in focusing more on the human micro-personal connections rather than a top-down view on policy. And just as some practical examples of relationships in the area, Peterborough County, while a unified body, is comprised of many unique townships, and this was not often included in prior work. Which is unfortunate, as part of the warden's role is to foster this collaboration by encouraging a county hat and keeping a balance between all of these municipalities. And this is also similar to the city of Peterborough and that relationship in both the proximity and the mutual benefits, but also the need for balance and interpersonal skills. Unfortunately, we don't have time to examine all of the connections, but there are some examples on the bottom right that just show the depth and the scale of this collaboration that is necessary. We could slides, thank you. But beyond collaborating across space, there's also the need to collaborate across time. And this includes this idea of respecting the past, living in the present, and planning for the future. Each of the wardens interviewed followed this pattern, so Peterborough County has had a consistent and effective government, which further again exemplifies the teamwork necessary. We can move slides, thank you. But in this project, I also gained a better understanding of the role beyond the dictionary definition to include this practicality that is often lost in translation. And part of this is the term ambassador, which came up a lot, and that encompasses all these ideas, but also raises this kind of complex idea of representing an abstract idea of a unified county, but also humanizing this to create these ever important connections. Again, it is this idea of balance, except this time it is between the symbolic and the human nature. And in discussing this people invisibility, I believe it would be wrong to ignore the challenges that arise, given the prevalence that these had in the conversations. Most of these came from an issue with naming and this confusion over the shared use of Peterborough between the city and the county, but also the term warden and its connection to jails often. And I'm not saying we should change these terms. They're very historic and I think they're quite important. But I do believe it's important to highlight these struggles in order to best recognize the hard work done by both the county and the warden to obtain this attention. And just as a personal example, in entering this project, I myself had concerns about this visibility. I learned that oral history was often used to uplift those who are left out of the historical record, and I feared that this project would not be an appropriate use given the platform I assumed municipal leaders had. But in undertaking this work and increasing the understanding of the hard work done to gain this recognition, I have realized my mistake. I have since also noticed that there is an unequal focus on the position rather than the person within the role. And again, I believe this is a drawback to the literature compiled. And it is my hope that this work adds to both the understanding of the role, but the depth to both the decisions and the people within it. Thank you. And one of these key findings that represents these overlooked ideas is the sense of care. And throughout the interviews, this inspired any actions undertaken by these wardens, including both lobbying for funds, the quality of services, or even to run for government at all. And again, this all comes back to this love and this desire to accurately represent the residents and provide the good people of Peterborough County the services they wanted, needed, and deserved. Again, however, this is often left out of the literature despite the centrality of these human connections, and it is oral history, I believe, that again reveals these. Government is for the people and by the people, but without this care from the warden or the county, it is impossible to successfully fulfill this mandate. I am honored to say, however, that from these findings, Peterborough County has been lucky to have leaders who prioritize this human idea of care and think beyond themselves to collaborate, putting the people first. Thank you. So while we have discussed the main themes, unfortunately, there is much else that I found that there is not time for. So there is a selection of these ideas on the screen, but for a further discussion, I would advise you turn your attention to the report. But after all of this, though, you must be wondering what comes next. So it is my belief that it is crucial that these findings are not lost and that work continues beyond my involvement. As such, I endorse the creation of an archive with these findings, but also including photos and news clippings to have information about the wardens all in one spot, increasing ease of access for future researchers. It is also my hope that this increased ease of access in this archive will help obtain the visibility that has been so sought after. Additionally, I recommend the continuation of this project with the idea of considering to do this when each warden leaves office to prevent further backlog and use this report as a starting point for continuity, but still maintaining the semi-structured interviews, asking questions that revealed the oral history that is so important. I would also consider expanding this process to those who have since passed on. This would require more archival to supplement the loss of the oral and the understanding that this might be less personal with this shift in methodology. However, this could be potentially circumvented if there are those who are still alive who have worked with this warden to potentially include them. And to continue on that theme of increased inclusion of others, I would recommend that overall, as I've talked so much about collaboration within this, but this hasn't really been reflected in a wider pool. As a starting point, many wardens talked about the role of the CAO, and I believe that this would be both beneficial to this archive, but also in general on its own. Regardless, however, this work should not end with me, and further action must be taken to recognize these leaders. So once again, thank you for having me and your role in this project. I would also like to thank my team of Emmanuel Pinto, Dr. Carolyn Durand, and Melora Lucas. As always, thank you to the wardens who have so generously participated in this project. And for further reference, the report, as Emmanuel said, will be made available soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire, first of all, for considering this as a project, and certainly to Trent University for allowing you. I think this is something established that we can look forward in having this oral history going ahead. So thank you for that. And I will open it up to any questions you may have for Claire. Yes, Councillor Taylor. And past warden.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. My first impression of you when we had a chance to meet was very favorable, and it continues to this day. When you asked me to participate, when you explained the project you were about to undertake, and you asked me to participate, I said, sure, of course. I had no idea it was going to be to this level. I mean, you dove deeper into the whole warden's history subject than I ever imagined. And I learned a lot from it. You covered a lot more ground than just actual bios from the individual wardens that participated. And I want to thank you for that. You did a very good job of it. I wondered, Claire, if you would mind, we corresponded by email a few times, and I sent you, when you were all done, I sent you an email with the following paragraph in it. And I wondered if you would mind if I shared it with the group here.
Absolutely not. Go right ahead. Thank you.
Because this was sincere. What I wrote, council and staff, was during my political career, I've been interviewed many times and have experienced various levels of competency by professional media staff. Most of them could take a lesson from you. Your attention to detail, desire to be accurate, professional, and courteous approach was refreshing. You made it comfortable for me to participate in this project, and I'm glad I did. I expect the quality of the final report will reflect the qualities you demonstrated working on it. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Whalen.
Thank you very much, Warden and Claire. It's amazing how you can take a boring subject like but you made it very interesting. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to look through, and looking forward to your final one. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any further questions? If not, Claire, would you come down? I'd like to present you with a plaque here of appreciation. Small gift as well. All the past wardens come down And for a picture with Claire as well.
You want to hold it?
Well, I don't know about the board voice. Get one right. Yes. Yeah. Oh, and Ken, would you put down too, please? Sorry. You stay right there. Oh, yes. Well, because I still.
Right here, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
And just hold it again, we should have Claire holding.
And 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. No. Thank you. Say thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
There, I just need a motion for the presentation. I'm looking at Councillor Franson. We'll get him on the books here. And Councillor Nelson, all in favor. Thank you. Okay, online, Jason St. Pierre, CEO of EORN, is going to do the presentation for the annual, just hold it, I've got these mixed up because, okay, for the EORN GAP project, because Lisa is having trouble with is she okay now? Okay, instead, we're going to jump back to the original presenter, Lisa Severinson. She is Director of Communications for EORN, and I will pass it over to you, Lisa, and that's a good indication that your connectivity was fine.
So thank you very much, Warden Clark. Jason is actually presenting on behalf of EORN. I'm just here as a backup and to assist if he can't answer one of the tough questions today.
Which is usually the case. So thank God you're here. So
You've got great backup, Jason. That's good.
yeah, really, we know who the start of the show really normally would be Lisa on this one, but because of the connectivity issues, we thought maybe I should jump in just in case. So I hope you can hear me okay. And I'm not sure, sorry, the presentation that was provided, I don't know, Emmanuel, if that's shared through there or if you're looking for us to show. Oh, perfect. Should have known. Excellent. Thank you very much. And thank you for the time. We always appreciate the opportunity to come and give an update on how the CEL project is going. In light of the recent events in Peterborough County, I can appreciate there may be a number of questions after our presentation, in which case we are always open to those. We understand the challenges that have occurred over the last month, especially when it came to connectivity, emergency services, and those things. And we did our best to try to support where possible throughout the recent incident and issues. But we'll jump into the project, and I can give an update or any questions after if that's okay with the group here. Maybe next slide, please. So on our agenda for today, oh, there we go. It's just overall the EORN, where we are as a project, a quick update on our strategic plan. I believe a year ago, we would have come to council with an update on where we're going and some of the work that was being done on that. So a quick update on that, and then time for any questions that may come up. Next slide, please. So just a quick overview on who is EORN. EORN is a small but mighty team. We are consistent of 12 members of the team, which are project focused and primarily project funded. So this slide just gives an overview of who we have in this team, as well as how the funding were to be provided. We do, of the 12, have 2 members who are purchase of service, which means that they do work for their home counties and are seconded to our project, which we appreciate, and allows us to bring a certain skill set into the organization, which may be difficult to find otherwise. But if we go through the team, there are the member contributions, which is the $10 million we'll talk about in a minute, that is brought forward by the EOWC and the EOMC as partners on this project. Myself, as well as our EA, is funded through that group. Under our CEL project, which is the big program we are working on right now, we do have our Director of Technology, our network analysts, a project manager, the Indigenous lead, as well as our two purchase of service participants and the GIS specialist from Peterborough County. And we appreciate you allowing them to help us support us through this program, and our financial analyst, which is part of the Hastings County team. A year ago, we would have talked about the success that EORN had in being awarded funding through CMHC. So with that funding, we are able to dedicate a project manager to work on things like decentralized systems, supporting in some of the housing challenges that we've been looking at, and in general, looking to support regionally on projects across Eastern Ontario that are impacted through the decentralized systems or the introduction of those or through housing. We also have partial funding through the CEL project for other positions, such as the CFO and the Director of Comms. And we have our analyst for Indigenous relations is also funded through that. So really, this slide saying that, in general, we have a project-driven organization that looks for to be sustainable through third-party funding with the support and seed money that was brought forward through the EOWC and the OMC. We also would be remiss if we did not highlight, we do have 3 non-paid advisors, one of them being the CAO for Peterborough County, and we appreciate you allowing her to help guide us through some of the challenges we have in this program. So thank you, Sheridan, for being part of this. But we also have the CAO for Lanark and for Prescott Russell, who are also advisors to us on this project. Next slide, please. The direct investment. So this was one that we presented to the EOWC, and we'd appreciated that over the years, EORN had a healthy contribution to the economy in Eastern Ontario. But until we really sat down and put it all together, we didn't fully appreciate the effort over the last 15 years and the funding that had been raised. So in the last 15 years through the EORN projects, and this is the broadband project, the CEL Gap, as well as a few other programs that have gone on throughout the over the years, including the Municipal Fiber Initiative, we have been able to secure over $576 million in $576 million over the 15 years into Eastern Ontario that may not have been brought into this area throughout any other means. Through this, the in total investment from the municipalities, the OWC and the OMC, has been just under $16 million. So a very basic return on investment, when we look at that, is about a 37 to 1. So over 15 years, we've been very successful in securing additional funds for the economic growth, this is the economy, and working with the municipalities in Eastern Ontario. Next slide, please. Just on the CEL itself. Next slide. Just as a reminder, and this is one of our obligations to ensure that we are reminding what the project scope was about. So our overall project here is to have 99% coverage in Eastern Ontario, where people work, live, and travel on major roadways, so that they can receive and make phone calls. Appreciate we may have a further discussion at the end of this on that, so open for that. 95% will be where for standard definition, which is, for standard definition, where you can get basic email support, web browsing, social media services, and those types of things, basic data transfer, and 85% in high definition, where you're able to support video conferencing, movie streaming, and other more data intensive applications. Based on our current, our latest drive test, we do feel we are well on route to be able to achieve these targets. In some cases, especially in the high definition areas, we look like we will be able to exceed these goals based on our current propagation mapping. Next slide, please. On the financials, so over $300 million has been invested through this project in Eastern Ontario. We are seeing those types of community benefits that we're looking for, but if we break it down, $71 million from the province of Ontario, just under $71 million from the federal government of Canada, just over $10 million from the EOWC and the EOMC, and Rogers is committed to a minimum of $150 million of investment in Eastern Ontario. This is a very positive step forward, and we are seeing the benefits, as I mentioned, from that investment already in Eastern Ontario after these last 4 years. I guess we're in our 4th year now, but we are already seeing noticeable differences because of these investments. Next slide, please. On the project itself, so if we look at the overall project, we are building 258 new sites. So these would be brand new towers that will be built in throughout Eastern Ontario. We are making very good progress on that. About 47% of those towers are now in service. 311 tower sites were to be upgraded. So this is where there was existing services today, and we would be adding the 5G radios to be able to make it more sustainable, as well as the 5G service would be provided to these areas. So 311 of those sites were to be upgraded with those services, and we are pleased to announce that those are 100% completed. We have 74 co-locations. So this is where, in our case, Rogers would be co-locating on either a Bell tower or a third-party tower provider to provide services to a region. We have 87% of those are in service as of now. So things are progressing very well. One thing to highlight here is many of the sites and services may also support the home internet service. Although that was not part of the scope of our project, the technology does allow for that home internet services to be brought forward if Rogers chooses to do so. And we do know that a number of areas they are providing those types of services to local residents. So it is possible that a number of these towers would be able to provide wireless home internet to areas that perhaps to date have not been successful in getting any of that. Overall, our project, we're about 75% complete. Next slide, please. In Peterborough County, because this is the area we really care about the most today. So as we look at this, there are 25 new tower sites that are to be built in Peterborough County. 36% of those are now in service. I think we just got another one actually yesterday, so a little bit more than that. So things are progressing well. We have 25 uplifts, which are 100% completed, and the 3 co-locations, which are to be built throughout Peterborough County, have also been completed. So 9 of those 25 sites are now in service, which is at 36. So probably it's 10 of 25 now. So overall, just under 80% of the Peterborough sites have been completed in the project. Just as a note on there, the county itself invested $681,000. From our calculations and the work that's been done through this program, we have seen an investment of $27.4 million of infrastructure being made. So again, if we look at very basic math on this, a 41 to return on investment. So a very solid return for the funds that were invested into the project. Next slide, please. We felt this was important to share with County Council, just to give an idea of where we started to where we're headed. If you look at the map on the left-hand side, that's from 2021. Just before we launched this project, we did we would have done an analysis of the area to look and see what the high definition coverage would have looked like. The map on the right-hand side is from 2025. Which shows the improvement already in the services without the project being completed. So we'll continue to see improvements of the project against the demand bins. So things are progressing well and positive already. Next slide, please. This is very similar as well, just to show drive test data. So in the fall of 2021, when we would have done the drive test data, and just for your understanding, the drive test data is actually physically a vehicle doing drive tests along the major roadways to understand what the coverage looks like. In 2021, we would have identified a number of areas in the red that were gapped where services would not be provided. In the fall of 2024, when that drive test was done again, we've already seen some positive trends in closing those gaps. So we continue to see a positive trend on the overall coverage, and we expect to continue to see that over the next year and a half to 2 years. Next slide, please. So just a construction plan overview. So to date, previous in service, we had 77 builds that are finished. And 54 co-locations. Currently, we have 121 sites that are in service and 164 of those 75 co-locations. Year 5, we have 113 sites that are being planned, so that's over the next year. We are looking to bring in 113 sites as well as 8 co-locations, with the remaining 24 new sites and 2 co-locations to be finished in year 6. Overall, it'll be 258 brand new sites that we'll have service to, as well as the 74 co-locations. So again, things are progressing well, and we are seeing the program and the construction cycles ramp up currently as we speak. We did have a couple of sites that have been delayed. I think we only have 2 or 3 sites left that are from a year 3 that are being brought in year 4. Next slide, please. So where we get into it, really what you want to know about the construction plan for Peterborough County in 2025, we do have 3 sites. So a site up in Bobcaygeon, one on Duro Dummer, one in Cavan Monaghan, and one in Havelock, Belmont, Methuen to be brought into service. And based on our current plan and current construction, we feel that those will be brought in service this year. The next slide will identify those areas of next year, and you'll notice there are a number of sites that we are looking to bring in service in 2026. These will be in the first, more or less the first half of the year, of the calendar year, sorry, in 2026. And we are doing our best to try to expedite and bring some of these in service sooner, if at all possible. On the EORN activities, just to highlight a few things on here. If we look at the key ones, 108 meetings and calls with some of the Indigenous communities or with the Indigenous communities that we work with. There's been a lot of effort and time put in through the Duty to Consult team and the EORN communications team to ensure that our relationship continues to go well as the communication streams, which has allowed for a number of those sites to be released for construction. We've had over 35 meetings with ministry and staff. And we continue to promote our newsletters and the status of the project through various means out through the EOWC and the OMC. The next slide, please. Appreciate them running. So just next timelines. Things are progressing well. We are looking to get some announcements out here, but we are having a number of challenges with all the elections going on. But we are looking to try to get something into hopefully in the fall from a larger announcements. Next slide, please. I just included, we included a couple of slides here just for education and awareness to council. Just the telecommunications landscape is evolving and changing. There's been a lot of movement in there, especially in the last 8 months, and we're closely tracking this to understand what the impacts may be, not just to our project, but overall to telecommunication strategies throughout Canada and where it'll impact Eastern Ontario. So a couple of high-level items that have occurred over the last couple of months directly impacting our project. Rogers Communications announced that they finalized an agreement to sell a 49.9% stake in their traffic transport portion to Blackstone Networks. Will not have an impact on our services, but does have some impacts on the way our project has been structured, and we are currently working through that with them. Redwood Infrastructure is an organization that's been created in partnership between Rogers and Berkshire Investments to create a holding company which now owns a good portion of the vertical real estate, including in our project. Does have an impact as a number of the towers that are being built is being built through the Redwood Infrastructure organization and no longer directly by Rogers Communications. For those who have some ASIP projects going on within your municipalities, you may also come across them for some of the ASIP fiber to the home projects, as they are now working on behalf of Rogers in a number of local municipalities as well. Next slide, please. Bell Canada divested their stake in MLSE. Might be sorry now after the Leafs won again yesterday. They might be a little bit upset about that, but essentially made $7 billion and turned that around to buy an organization in the US called Ziply for a fiber to the home footprint in their first play outside of the Canadian border to try to drive some revenue opportunity there and to pay down debt. TELUS has also announced that they'll be selling a minority stake, 94.9% or 5% of their vertical real estate, their towers, to reduce their debts as well. And Xplore, not to be forgotten, has also announced a release of their 5G ultra high speed across Canada, and there are a few sites in Eastern Ontario currently that are being that these services are being provided through, and we're looking to gather some more information that we can share with local municipalities in the next couple of months here. Next slide, please. On the strategic plan, last year we did come and talk to, it's been about a year now that we talked to county councils about the strategic plans and some of the changes that were going on with the EORN organization. We have changed our letters of patent in July of 2024 that will now allow us under our non-for-profit status to be able to work in 4 key areas that we felt were relevant and important in a regional approach to project management and project delivery across Eastern Ontario. Those 4 key areas now are project management services, infrastructure project services, technology service support, and municipal support where required or requested by either local or county municipalities. We do continue to work closely with the OWC, the OMC, and the OLC, a lot of E's, to ensure that as many of these projects align, and we are looking to bring the optimal regional benefit that we can to Eastern Ontario. Next slide, please. Few of these current initiatives, just for your awareness. So development successful implementation of the duty to consult process. ERN was a leading organization for the province when it came to understanding and creating a duty to consult process. A number of those policies and processes that have been created through that are applicable to municipal or county projects that may occur, and we are able and available to help support if requested. We are working on the automated speed enforcement with Lanark County right now to set up what a project might look like to introduce essentially speed cameras and to help manage and bring that from a regional perspective where we can partner with local municipalities and support them where it may not make sense for them to try to implement a system like this on their own. We are working with the Canadian Internet Registry Authority to evaluate the broadband coverage throughout Eastern Ontario. We are currently working on a very last premise strategy to close the gaps with the provincial broadband projects. This is about a $20 million project that we're looking to invest in, and we're getting very close on that. As well as working on some GIS information on digital twin and a regional procurement model for joint services, one of them being such as cybersecurity that we've been considering or looking at. Next slide, please. Just on the CIRA performance itself, we have signed on as a community partner for CIRAS, which allows that Peterborough County as well as the partner municipalities would have access to any of that information that we're able to gather. We have sent out through LinkedIn and communication strategies to municipalities as well as to the public, allowing them or notifying them that this platform is available within the Eastern Ontario footprint, and we are actively looking for participation in testing the data speeds of local providers so we can better understand where the service gaps may occur, where we may have strong service, and how we might be able to pull that information together to share at a regional level and to help support regional or local municipalities when it comes to identifying gaps and coming up with strategies to try to close those gaps. The website is on there if you're interested in trying it yourself. Next slide, please. I was just saying basically on this slide here is we've announced it. We don't have a lot of data yet, but we've just refreshed the data as of March this year. So we are looking for more active participants to help give us a good level of data in this model, please. Next slide, please. So what's next for us? So we will continue to search out regional projects that can be supported through our current funding models. So the very last PREM is an example of that. The ASE project is one that we are considering as well and looking at what the funding models may look like that. We continue to search for sustainable funding. That is our goal, is to be fully sustainable and self-supportive. We are a resource that's open to project ideas to assist municipalities in Eastern Ontario. So if you have any suggestions, recommendations, things you'd like us to consider, we are very open to those discussions and always looking for new opportunities. In 2026, without new funding support, though, ERN, we will start to reduce our staff. As I mentioned on the opening, we are a project-oriented organization, and without that sustainable funding through a program or project, we will start to look to reduce our staff at the closing of the CellGap project to 3 to 4 members between staff and contract resources. So there are we do currently have a funding model that will allow for that reduced staff until 2030. And if at the end of 2030 we're unsuccessful in finding additional projects, we will start the process of closing down the ERN organization. Just the way you want to go out in the end of a presentation. So next slide, please. I think that's it. So any questions?
Thank you very much for the presentation, Jason, and Lisa is here to answer questions as well. So I will open it up for any questions. Yes, Councillor Graham.
Through you, Warden. Thanks for the presentation. As you alluded to at the start of your presentation with regards to some of the emergency response and criteria that we've been dealing with over the last couple of weeks, my comment is around then. In one of our local emergency committee meetings, one of the discussions that came up is the implications of the federal government's decision to be ripping and replacing some of the Huawei tower technology with Nokia or Samsung or Ericsson, other tech, due to the international security concerns with regards to Huawei. And it was communicated to me from members of our emergency services in the meeting that they're having issues, or that the replacement tech is not providing the same security for those emergency network calls to be going through. Is there a conversation within the EORN group about the potential rural implications of, I understand the federal reasons behind the tech limitations from a security standpoint, but we need to be replacing the same infrastructure with the same capable infrastructure, especially when it comes to emergency response. So I didn't know if you can make a comment, or that's something that EORN is aware of and investigating to ensure that, you know, future emergency circumstances aren't impaired from a cell network standpoint.
No, that's a great question. Thank you. I was not aware of the technology limitations of Huawei versus Ericsson or Nokia. So that is something I will take away to investigate, because that was news to me. During the ice storm that occurred over the last number of months, the last couple of weeks, EORN has been reached out to by a number of municipalities to identify the concerns and issues over the coverage and the ability to make calls. We have started to investigate with a couple of different organizations to see what could have been done in a scenario like this. I think part of the challenge we would see is the length of time that the areas were out of for power. To keep any of those services up may have been a challenge. But I guess sort of the short answer to the question is we are looking in to see what options may be available to municipalities, to the county for emergency services, and how dedicated spectrum or dedicated links may have been or could be established in those types of scenarios. There are organizations who specialize in this, and we have reached out to a couple of those to try to better understand how and if that would have been able to help support us in this recent disaster that took place.
Thank you. Councillor Lambshead.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. And you did answer my first part of my question, was about trying to keep connectivity during an emergency like that. It was very difficult for the first 2 or 3 days for most of our first responders and staff to communicate. So thank you for looking into that. I hope there's a future solution to that. So, but the other thing was on page 13, tower number C8577 is not in Cavan Monaghan. It is in Trent Lakes. Thank you for correcting the 507 one on the last presentation. Please correct this one on this presentation. Thank you.
So I love coming to these presentations, because there's always one that we get, we think we're there, but it's just so close. We just miss it by a bit. So thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Yes, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Warden Clark. Thank you, Jason and Lisa. In your report, you used the term many towers have been uplifted. Does this simply mean upgraded to increase their capacity?
Yes. So two things. The technology has now been upgraded to a 5G technology, but the capacity has also been increased as well for those services, as well as what's able to be provided through those. So things like HD, high definition, will now be able to be provided through those technologies, where previously they may not have been in those areas. So capacity and technology upgrades.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Just one comment to you, Jason and Lisa. We had some problems with one of our carriers, and in fact could not get that carrier at the table to answer questions around their service. I do know that the Premier found the same difficulties as well. I'm having further conversations around that, and we'll maybe pull you and Lisa into that conversation as well, because that was critical. We were asking questions around that service and couldn't get any of that information out to certainly our residents, which was very unsettling. So, but it went as high as the Premier's office with no response as well to the Premier.
No, if you would, that would be appreciated. Haliburton County had a similar challenge where they're unable to find out what was happening when they lost their services. We were able to help at least get some information. It wasn't the information they wanted, but at least it gave them some idea of what was occurring. And it was cables had been cut due to the trees falling. But yes, if you can include us in that, we would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So seeing no further questions, so just a motion to receive the presentation from Jason St. Pierre and Lisa Severinsen. Moved by Councillor Wilford, second by Councillor Huntley. All in favor? Thank you. And Jason, you are still on the hot seat here. Is Kristen Myers going to be Yes, there's Kristen. Welcome as well. She is our project manager. So I will turn the podium back to you.
Well, so I've learned well from Lisa here. So Kristen and Zach will be taking you through the MSC business case study. So
Okay. Oh, Zach. Yes, welcome. I didn't see you there on the screen.
Wonderful. Thank you. Just a reminder, my name is Kristen Myers and I'm a project manager with Eastern Ontario Regional Network. And I'm joined here today, of course, with Jason St. Pierre, but also Zach Drinkwalter, who is ERN's CFO. And we're looking at discussing today some of the work that ERN is taking on when it comes to supporting Peterborough County in its consideration of establishing a municipal services corporation for decentralized water and wastewater systems. Next slide, please. So in this presentation, I'm going to cover a background of the work that we're undertaking. Again, we're looking to deliver a business case study to the county on establishing an MSC. So I'll go into the background of how we got here and why ERN is undertaking this work. We'll go over the scope of work that's actually being undertaken as part of this business case. We'll talk about the timeline when we plan on delivering this. And then, of course, if there's any questions after. Okay, next slide. Okay, so ERN has been engaged with Peterborough County staff as well as the CAO to undertake a business case study exploring Peterborough County's establishment or potential establishment of a municipal services corporation as a vehicle to deliver decentralized water and wastewater management systems, but also housing. It's kind of using these systems to unlock land to support housing, essentially. So ERN over the last several years has been growing its expertise in the housing sector, as well as in the areas of MSCs and decentralized water and wastewater management systems. We have been awarded through CMHC Stage 1 of the Housing Supply Challenge in terms of funding. And then during Stage 1, we also had a signed MOU, or a Memorandum of Understanding, with Peterborough County. And it is through, or hopefully through, this continued relationship with Peterborough County that we will be able to deliver the business case study. Okay. And so our goal here is not to steer the county in any one direction. It's simply to inform and provide information to the county to make a more informed decision when it comes to MSCs, and in particular an MSC surrounding decentralized systems. Next slide, please. Okay, so just in terms of the scope of work, so we'll look at preliminary governance models and their autonomy. So we'll look at associated legislations, benefits, and challenges. Again, we're looking specifically more so on the Municipal Services Corporation side. Thus far in our research, we've been trying to do our due diligence and make sure that the Municipal Services Corporation is maybe an avenue that might be best for Peterborough County. We've also looked at public utilities, and we've also looked at municipal business corporations. And in doing that, we've actually found out recently some interesting information that, well, municipal businesses corporations are established and they are up and running, including in the water and wastewater management field. Actually, now when a municipality goes to establish a corporation, it won't establish a municipal business corporation. That Ontario regulation has been rescinded. They'll actually establish a municipal services corporation either under the Business Corporations Act as a for-profit, or under the Non-for-Profit Act as a nonprofit corporation. Okay, so we will take on some of the lessons learned from the municipal business corporations that are existing in this area. There's really very little difference between the two. I think the only thing that stood out as different was the requirements under the business case to establish an MBC versus an MSC. So we will draw on both of those models. We'll look at the case studies of existing MSCs in the water and wastewater systems, including centralized and decentralized, as well as municipal business corporations. So some examples, you may be aware of the Frontenac Municipal Services Corporation. It is an MSC that has been established for decentralized systems, but we'll also look at in-service utilities from the town of Innisfil and the township of Oro-Medonte MSC that also uses an MSC model to govern its water services. Next slide, please. I'm going to send this one over to Zach to discuss scope of work when it comes to financial considerations and models.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. So as part of our business case study, we're going to look at expenditures expected through the MSC and specifically through communal systems and water and sewer systems. We'll look at forecasting those expenses for these rural systems. Most likely they'll be new systems, but potentially some existing through our business case study. We'll look at the expected revenue that will be required to cover operational costs for these systems and future capital costs for these systems. So when we're looking at the revenue streams and the expenses, we'll ensure that we're looking at reserves that will have to be set aside in order to cover capital costs going forward. We're going to touch on managing costs and expectations on support from the county, whether there are any of those expectations through the MSC model, or it will be a standalone MSC. We'll review potential rate structures and hopefully provide a forecast and analysis on what the rate structure should be. There's lots of variables that go into that, whether there's meters, whether or not it's water and sewer or just water. So we'll provide a in-depth analysis on that. We'll also be looking at different financial models of an MSC. And this is something we've touched on in the past on other projects, but how this partnership might look like between lower tier and the county, whether there may be private partnerships or a lower tier buy-in or 100% county owned. So we'll review those models and provide examples of what could be utilized when putting together this MSC. Next slide, please. We'll also look at funding opportunities for water and sewer. And there's a bit of a caveat to that. These programs, I'm sure, as the county knows, that they change yearly, and from month to month they can be there, and then it's either a new funding stream or the funding stream's gone. But when we do get close to our final report, we'll make sure to include the funding available at the time, and have a bit of an analysis on that and if it can be utilized. With the provincial and federal governments really focusing on housing, I expect there to be some funding going forward that we may not see right now. And I do think they realize that the thing that is partial, one of the main reasons housing isn't being built in rural areas is lack of services and or lack of capacity of services. So I think that will be addressed, but we'll see that hopefully in the future. We'll also do some high-level work on the asset transfer policy. Now, the asset transfer policy is something that's required under the Municipal Service Corp legislation. The asset transfer policy has to be established, and we will provide a high-level asset transfer policy, maybe not the detail that'll be needed for a final MSC, just because we won't maybe have the details on some of the assets, or even if there's going to be an asset transfer, but it will give something that for the county to work with. One thing too, I also wanted to mention is agreements or MOUs that there may need to be agreements or MOUs with lower tier municipalities, depending on how these systems are being operated by and who's looking after the system. So it's something we'll include our report and something that the county may want to consider. And next slide, please. And the next in our business case study, we're also going to talk about the impacts to the county. This will include potential staffing impacts or how staffing might work for an MSC.
as well as financing models explored. And we'll talk about the different models based on whether the MSC is a standalone organization or the county supporting the MSC. So that will really play into the financing of the MSC. We'll also prepare a initial risk analysis for the county. And this is something that will be included in our report. And we will review as we're preparing the report, but it is something that should be continuously reviewed through the process of setting up the MSC, and it will help keep the project on track going forward. Next slide, please, and I'll pass it back to Kristen.
Great. So based on the research undertaken, we'll come up with a number of preliminary conclusions in the business case. Those associated with the MSC, specific to the governance models and financials, for example, as well as centralized and decentralized wastewater management systems, their flexibility, their autonomy, et cetera. We'll come up with a number of recommendations and next steps following the business case should Peterborough County decide that it wants to continue down the path of an MSC, what those next steps should be. Based on a lot of conversations with MSCs that have already been established, a lot didn't do quite as deep of a dive in terms of their governance models or their financial models. And so we would recommend that as one of the next steps, is really doing a further deep dive into those models to set you up for success. But that will be among the many different recommendations and next steps that would need to be undertaken. Next slide, please. And just timeline. So we're hoping to be able to deliver the draft business case by the end of June. It is very much underway. So that is kind of the deadline that we are giving ourselves. And I will note that the costs associated with ERIN undertaking this business case will be absorbed by stage 1 of the housing supply challenge. So there is no cost to Peterborough County for ERIN to undertake this work. Okay. And I think the last slide is just questions. Any questions?
CAO, just for some comments, please go ahead, Sheridan.
Thank you. Just to augment the presentation and perhaps clarify it, what the focus of this review is really on rural communal servicing opportunities. It's not looking at, it shouldn't look at the integration of current urban water and wastewater facilities. It's focusing on housing development in those rural areas that can't support it now. And what those financial implications would be to municipalities that wanted to form an MSC for that purpose. Just want to provide that clarification.
Okay, thank you, Sheridan. Basically for development in rural communities that don't have the capacity or the financial wherewithal to put a central system in. Yes, Councillor Whalen and then Councillor Graham.
Thanks very much. And this question isn't to EORN, it's to you, Sheridan. We had Joe Gallagher here. I forget what township he was from, but they already had this in the works. They had buildings built with this on. And I thought at the time we were going to be able to tie in with him and eliminate a lot of this pre stuff. I think at the time he said it was almost $1 million to, get all the pre stuff in place. So was that ever followed up?
Through you. So yes, our part of EORN's review is looking at the County of Frontenac setup that they have. Okay. It's taken them 5 years to get to where they are now with the establishment of their MSC, and they've just hired a CEO for their MSC. But there are other structures in other municipalities that would be part of the review too. So it's not saying that necessarily Frontenac is the best. It may be one, and it will still be looked at as part of one that we could adopt. But there are ones in Innisfil, there are other areas that what EORN is doing as part of their project, using the CMHC funding they have, is looking at all the different types of structures and what might work best for our situation. But it's not putting theirs out yet. Frontenac hasn't yet determined whether they will be allowing other municipalities outside their actual geographical boundaries to join their MSC yet. that's preliminary for them at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then Councillor Graham.
Yeah, and through you, Warden, thanks for that clarification, Sheridan. We spoke briefly yesterday just about that because I had concerns. The tonality of the presentation seems very MSC oriented. And I'm not sure an MSC is the best way forward whatsoever. I don't think the county necessarily has a role to play in that MSC. Communal systems are municipal. You're able to explore them and implement them in your municipality if you want to develop for rural purposes on your own. So I'm assuming that a part of the project, and like I said, it's just titles and abbreviations and things like that. So I can appreciate, MSC is a very short acronym to use. So that's all well and good. But I just want maybe less from Sheridan and more from Zach and Kristen that, what we're hoping for, I think what the optimism is and what the motion from, I believe it was June in 2024 was about, is these communal systems and some sort of a roadmap as to how municipalities could explore these opportunities rather than an MSC might be one. But the technology itself doesn't require an MSC. I mean, it's just one avenue. And I just think it's important that councillors understand that this isn't going to, at the end of the day, if you want to incorporate or create service and capacity in municipality, it's on you to do it and fund it. There's no way around it. And an MSC is an opportunity that can give you flexibility based on the financial situation of your township and municipality, which might be advantageous and might not be, because as Councillor Whalen said, and as the presenters from Frontenac have said, this is a 5 to 6 year project that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to create an MSC if you're going that road. But at the end of the day, it's really going to be up to the townships to manifest their own destiny as how they want to bring servicing within their boundaries for development. And I just want clarity from you too, that that's what we're expecting and that's what we'll receive, and I appreciate it.
Point you towards an MSC. We'll provide you with the information to inform your decision making if an MSC is right for you. We will also do a certain level of analysis between keeping these systems within the county or together with the townships or an MSC. So we'll do that comparative analysis as well. So again, not pushing you in any one direction. Just because we've undertaken the business case and you've looked at the MSC doesn't mean that you need to establish one. It just solely means that you will be informed about making that decision.
So thank you for those questions, Councillor Graham, and thank you, Kristen, because that was my assumption after your presentation was that we are still looking at all the options here, not specifically one. We're weighing them all, and that's what this feasibility study is. And to the risk, whether we look at it as a county level or whether, some of our small municipalities, it wouldn't be feasible unless we look together, but we're going to look at all those options. And I'm just looking to our CAO as a further comment, then I'll come to Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. And through you, I had suggested some amended wording to the motion that perhaps Marissa can pull up on the screen. That kind of clarifies, I think, a little bit more the focus on rural. But I think maybe what I'm hearing is that we need further clarification to show that it's not necessarily just MSC review, it's other alternatives available to the townships and county.
And this is funded through the stage 1 funding from the, yes. Okay. Councillor Taylor. And then I'll come back.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Warden Clark. Thank you, Zach and Kristen. Due to economies of scale, has your business case study suggested what the minimum number of users must be to make an MSC viable?
So and I'll let Zach tune in on this as well. We have been looking and speaking with existing MSCs and looking at the different models, whether a county-led model or a county-led together with the townships or across different counties is the best model. After speaking with them, it seems like although including more counties or more townships may make things a little bit more complex, it may be better in terms of economies of scale because you increase the density of the population, and thus you have more ratepayers to be able to make an MSC more successful. So there are some existing MSCs that are just at the single tier level or the county level that would have said that they would have preferred to have other municipalities on board to be able to make this more sustainable. So yes, we are looking at kind of the density of population and what the best model is in terms of having one or more counties or townships involved. And it seems that economies of scale do work better when there's more people involved. However, on the flip side of that, it can often make the governance of these MSCs more complex, which in turn has its own issues. But Zach, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that?
Sorry, Kristen, that's not actually answering my question. What I'm wondering is if for a development to occur and be serviced by a communal servicing system, should that development have 50 units in it, 100 uses, 150? How many does it take to actually make this MSC viable? The servicing portion of it viable?
In terms of the actual system itself. It depends on the system that you have in place and your local conditions of the system. If you're using an MBR system, there are some criticisms around having that density to be able to support the flow of these systems. So is there a sweet number of exactly the number of units that are needed for one of these systems to be successful? There's just so many different nuances or specifics that would have to be assessed to be able to give you a proper answer for that one. So
it's not possible to really answer the question. I'm wondering, can you build one with 20 homes, 100 homes, 200 homes? But then my question is, let's say that you have, I'm going to call them users, 100 users on a system. Do you have a guideline, and it's going to be serviced by a community in-ground water, communal well? Do you have a guideline as to exactly how many gallons per minute are necessary to service, let's say, 100 homes with a well? Any idea?
That I don't have an answer for you. I see Jason, maybe you have.
Yeah, no, we can take that away because it all depends on who your provider is, how big your system is, how many users, what's the aquifer like. So there's a number of variables that play into that. And the same with, it's difficult to answer even the number of users because you can purchase systems to facilitate different growth sizes. So if you have a subdivision that's going to be 300 units in the long term, but that's going to take 10 or 15 years to get there. There is module aspects to this. So to answer that in the first 50 homes, you might use the same system knowing that your long-term plan will be 400 homes. So it's a difficult question just to answer, but we will take that away and see if we can come back with a little bit of a guideline or some more information that we could share to help try to answer that a little more clearly.
Okay.
Thank you. And to that point, when we did have the council visit to the facility down east, to Councillor Taylor's point, there was units that you could add on to. So you could put 30 units on, then you could add another unit to that existing one that would give a larger capacity, maybe a 15 unit. So it was almost like a building block. So there wasn't, but I know what you were trying to say, okay, is it 50? Is it 100? But with the different, what we at that presentation down east was very informative. I'm wondering if the information we were given, could that be distributed to the council members that day we went that weren't able to attend, that would maybe give a little more insight or answer some of those questions, if that could be distributed by staff to everybody?
So is how much water is in the ground?
Oh, yes.
And can that service the development? So that's what there's some sort of a guideline as what's going to be needed to service the end result.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and in our recommendations, I will include, you may want to do an assessment on how ready the county would be to be able to adopt communal servicing as well as a next step after the business case. Making sure that you have the water in the ground to actually be able to support these systems will be a factor as well. So there's so much detail behind these systems. It's hard to kind of come up with broad guidelines. So I apologize.
No, it's a non-starter if we don't have the source. Councillor Graham.
Thank you. And through you, Warden, just two things. One, I think Councillor Taylor brings up a good point, less so about the capacity, but I believe in the Frontenac example, I think the end user costs cannot be excluded. And so if there are real examples, which there are now, and I know they're relatively at their infancy, but as someone who runs one of the 4 significant or, to varying degrees of significance, depending where you are, water, wastewater systems, I think Frontenac, if I remember correctly, their estimation was in the ballpark of $300 to $350 a month, which is double what the rates are of our current system. And it's one of the number 1 complaints about the cost of the water, wastewater provision of services already. And that's half of what Frontenac was proposing. So I'm hopeful that there's updates and maybe scalability, and that was just a starting point. But the reality of that market expectation needs to be shared, because I can tell you, if you're selling, when you're listing these houses, it's a complaint from new residents or old residents. It's a common complaint. There's not an understanding of the infrastructure or a contained economy. And when we're downsizing the scale of that economy, it's all the more important from a municipal standpoint that we can clearly communicate in those new potential developments that this is a reality of this development. Like, you're buying this system and you're buying into it by buying this house, and it's not changing. And it won't change for the foreseeable future. Now, scalability and things like that, add modules, yeah, maybe, but there's still going to be that upfront cost. So I just hope that can be sort of dovetailed in if whatever's available. And then lastly, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the CAO was asking for some slight adjustments, maybe within the recommendation, simply if we added rural communal systems and just simply added and municipal service corporations, and then continue on with the rest of the motion. I think you probably encompassed everything you're looking for.
Councillor Graham, we've got a motion we will read out, but I want to entertain Councillor Black first, and then I'm going to have the clerk read the motion, and then we can amend accordingly. Thank you. Please go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, through your Warden. Thanks for the presentation. No, I just support Councillor Graham on his amendment, maybe around that. I think, there are municipal corporations out there already that we're already maintaining systems within the county, and it might be a different arrangement between a neighboring township with one of the 4 that have a system to maintain. It might be a cheaper cost. So, I'd like that included as part of the study, is those types of relationships, as opposed to setting up a new corporation to do that. I think all of those options need to be considered, considering the situation the county currently has. So I'd support an amendment that will include that type of information as well.
I see no further questions, so I'm going to ask the clerk to read the amended motion.
So first of all, that the presentation be received, and that EORM be engaged to conduct the feasibility study for Peterborough County related to rural communal systems and municipal services corporations, and that the study review and define the financial obligations of any participating municipalities and user fees, and show other alternatives available to the townships and the county.
Okay, so I'm seeing nods around the, okay. So moved by Councillor Black and second by Councillor Martin. All in favor? So moved. Thank you. Good discussion. All right, we are going. I'm sorry, did I miss you? Okay. Yes.
About the water source, it doesn't have to be groundwater. This can use a creek, a lake, because many of these systems can use groundwater, of course, but there's other sources of water, so they can treat it and make it usable. And at the end, the water can go right back into the lake. So you're not really changing anything. You're just using it and returning it. So some of these systems are very efficient.
Thank you for that clarification. It doesn't have to be an aquifer, and that's what, yes. Okay. Any other comments? I see none on screen. All right. I think I did call the vote. I'll do it again. All in favor? All right. Thank you. So now we're going to move into closed section under the authority of the Municipal Act under section 239 2B. And I need a mover and seconder. Move Councillor Nelson and seconder Councillor